Hello and welcome. Today we are doing a comparison test between two popular wireless microphone systems, the Saramonic Blink 500 Pro system and my go-to, the DJI Mic system. Stay tuned and find out which one comes out on top. This is the DJI Mic wireless system. Now, I've been using this for well over a year now, and last year I posted a comparison review comparing the DJI system to the Godox MoveLink system. And back then, several people asked me about the comparison to the Saramonic. Well, just one short year later, here it is. I now acquired the Saramonic system so I could do the comparison review. Now, it's important to note that there is a newer version to the Saramonic Blink 500 Pro, which is the ProX system. But the differences are very subtle, and I will point out the differences as we go through the review. And I think overall you'll find the comparison of the two systems is going to apply equally whether we're dealing with the Pro system or the ProX system. Over the course of this video, we're going to compare the design of the two systems. We're going to look at the features and capabilities of the two, and then we're going to do some testing. We're going to do some audio testing in inside environment, and then we're going to go outside and do an outside test, including a range test. Now, this is going to be quite a long video, so I'll post the chapters over here so you can skip to the part you're interested in, and hopefully that will also be shown in the timeline so you can jump straight to that part also in the video. Before we get started, just a quick disclaimer. This video is not sponsored or paid for in any way. All of the products were purchased with my own money, and the opinions are entirely my own. You can find links to the products in the product description, and as usual, if you enjoy the video, please remember to hit the like button and please consider subscribing to the channel. Okay, I don't want to do an entire unboxing, but let's just take a brief look at what you get with each of the two systems. Now, with the Saramonic system, you've got this very nice case which contains the charging box, the transmitter and receiver. We'll get to that in a second. And you also have various cables and accessories. You've got a TRS cable for the camera, TRRS cable for your smartphone. You've got two USB charging cables, a wind protector, and this is a very nice touch that they've also included a wired lav mic. Moving to the DJI, we have the charging box, which contains the receiver, two transmitters, and a couple of adapters. And you've got a single TRS cable for a camera, a couple of wind protectors, because of course this is a two microphone system, and a bag which holds everything. So let's take a closer look at this case. Now, Saramonic has made some pretty strange design choices, starting with this particular case, which when you open it up, you'll find it contains another case. It all seems just a little bit redundant. Now, of course, I could use this case to carry all my accessories, but as you can see, this is now a lot to carry around, particularly when you compare this to the DJI system. So let's take a closer look at the charging cases and their contents. Starting with the Saramonic, you can see this particular kit has a single transmitter and a receiver. Of course, there is a two transmitter version, in which case the box would be a little bit bigger. Comparing this to the DJI, you can see we have two transmitters and the receiver, as well as some adapters. You have one for iPhone, a USB-C, which can be used for any compatible USB-C device, including a laptop. Now, one thing I don't understand about the Saramonic design is why they had to make this thing so large. If you compare it to the DJI, it's about twice the size. Now, they both weigh about the same. The DJI is a little bit lighter, but remember, this is a two microphone system. And this brings me to another key difference between the two. If you pick up the DJI, it has a certain heft to it. It really feels quality made. Picking up the Saramonic, even though it is about the same weight, it's significantly larger, so it feels light and cheap. Another thing you'll notice when I open the DJI case, and this is a feature I really like, everything powers on straight away. You can see the status of all the devices on the main receiver, and the green light shows that each of the transmitters is powered on. You take out the devices you need and they're ready to go. Looking at the Saramonic, when I open it up, you can see nothing much happens. I have to take out each one, power it up separately, and now I'm ready to go. So let's take a closer look at the components, starting out with the transmitters. Now the first thing you'll notice is that the Saramonic transmitter is quite a bit larger than the DJI. It's also a little heavier, but nothing you're really going to notice. Now the larger size is probably to accommodate the display here, which together with the larger size, I think makes it a little bit more obtrusive when you're wearing it. Now the DJI does have this bright light on here, but in the latest firmware update you can actually dim this so it becomes less noticeable too. Now of course, if you're worried about this being too distracting, you can also put it away and use a lav mic instead, but most of the time I prefer to just take out the transmitter and start recording. And that brings me to the next area where I feel Saramonic has dropped the ball, and that is with the attachment. Now the Saramonic has a plastic clip on the back, and that's really the only means of attaching this. So if I'm wearing a shirt, I can clip it on the neck. If I have a collared shirt such as this, I can clip it a bit lower, but you can see it's not really the best way of attaching something. Now the DJI also has a standard clip, but the clip is also made out of metal. And they also provide you with these really strong magnets that you can put inside clothing, or you can use a magnet pendant like this one and just clip it on and be ready to record. Now of course I could stick a piece of metal on, such as I've done with my DJI Pocket wireless microphone here, but the problem being if I do that, it no longer sits properly in the charging case, so that's not an option. One other thing on the transmitter, same on the receiver, that's kind of strange is the use of a micro USB port in order to charge this outside of the charging case, which is a bit odd considering that the charging case uses USB-C, so you're going to have to carry both cables around. Next up, let's look at the receivers. Now here too, the Saramonic receiver is a little bit larger and a little bit heavier than the DJI, but nothing too extreme. One area where I feel again Saramonic has really dropped the ball is in the placement of the display and how it attaches to the hot shoe. If I'm working with the camera facing me, you can just about see the display on here if you come close to the camera and kind of look over the top. However, you'll notice that the display is actually sideways, so you actually have to come to the camera and look this way in order to see what's on the display. Also notice that it's not possible to fit the hot shoe in the opposite direction. So if you're working with the camera facing away from you, you have to come over the top and again tilt your head to the side in order to see what's on the display. So here too, I think they're just missing the user experience. If I compare this to the DJI, you can see how the front-facing display allows me to see exactly what the system is doing while I'm looking at the camera. It's also possible to mount the DJI receiver in either direction, so if I'm behind the camera, I can also have the display facing me. Okay, now I'm not looking to do a full tutorial, but let's take a brief look at the display and basics of operation of each system. Starting out with the Saramonic, and let's start out with the receiver. So with the receiver on the display, you can see on the left, you can see the status of the A microphone, and on the right hand side, the status of the B microphone. So this receiver will support up to 2 receivers. Obviously, we only have 1 installed here. You can see the signal strength, whether or not it's muted, the gain level, and the battery life. On the lower section, you can see the status of the receiver itself, including the signal status, the volume level of the headphones, the mode, whether mono or stereo, and again the battery level, in this case of the receiver. Moving on to the transmitter, you can see we have the signal status, the battery status, and the gain level of the transmitter itself. In the middle, you can see there is a sound meter. But as you can see right now, I'm talking in pretty close proximity to the transmitter, but nothing is showing up. You actually have to make a significant amount of noise before anything shows up here, so I'm not sure how useful that really is. When it comes to operation, the transmitter and receiver are pretty similar. Starting out with the receiver, you've got a power button, which also doubles as a mute button, which in this instance is the mute button for the headphones. And on the other side, you have 2 buttons which are used to scroll through and select menu items and their associated parameters. If I use either button, I can scroll through the different options available. And then a long press on the left button activates that particular parameter, and then I can set the parameter as I want it, and a long press again is used to confirm. You can see on the receiver the options include version, restore default, language, mute key enable or disable, backlight on or timers for turning off, mono or stereo output mode, volume, which in this case is for the headphones, and then back to the main display. As far as the transmitter is concerned, we have again version, restore defaults, language, enable or disable the mute key, backlight mode, input mode, whether mic in or line in, microphone gain, and then back to the main display. Now let's take a look at the DJI system. So you can see the display is only on the receiver here, and you can see on the display it shows the sound level for each of my 2 transmitters. If I turn off one of the transmitters, you can see the display updates accordingly, showing me now just the recording level of the single transmitter. Basically, all the settings are done through the receiver. We can scroll up on either side to select the transmitter 1 or transmitter 2 settings, and we can scroll down from the top to select from various different options. And as you can see, there are a significantly larger number of options on the DJI system. Taking a look at the transmitter, we have a power button, which also doubles as a mute button. And we have a pairing button if you need to manually pair this. And there's also a recording button. So the transmitter on the DJI does have built-in storage, allowing you to record directly to the transmitter. In this section, rather than focusing on all the features and capabilities of both systems, I just want to focus on the differences and particularly the advantages that each system offers. Starting with the DJI system, I think the first advantage that it offers is versatility. In addition to the standard analog cable, you have a lightning adapter for attaching to an iPhone or iPad. You also have a USB-C adapter for connecting to a compatible USB-C device, including a laptop. And it's also worth mentioning that you can connect the receiver through its own USB-C port directly to a laptop or computer. In contrast, the Saramonic would need different adapters or even different receivers in order to offer the same level of versatility. Another advantage of the DJI system is the ability to record a backup channel. So in this mode, instead of recording left and right stereo, the system records a primary channel and a secondary backup channel at a lower gain. So if your primary channel is distorted for any reason, you can resort to the backup channel. Finally, another advantage of the DJI system is the ability to do standalone recording on the transmitter. This function allows you to take the transmitter and use it like a portable voice recorder without the need to hook it up to the receiver. The soundtrack is stored on the internal memory of the transmitter, which can be transferred to your computer just like files on a thumb drive. Next, let's turn our attention to the Saramonic system to see what advantages it offers. The first one is the battery life. Now, although I didn't test this, the claimed battery life of both the transmitter and receiver is 8 hours versus just 5.5 hours on the DJI system. This might be a key advantage if you're recording for longer periods without the ability to recharge. Next, let's consider the display and controls on the transmitter. Now, there could be situations where it may be advantageous to have more control and more display capability on the transmitter, particularly if you're a long distance away from the receiver. Last and by no means least, another advantage of the Saramonic system is its price. The single microphone system or the dual microphone system are significantly lower in price than the DJI equivalents. And it's also worth mentioning that even the single transmitter version has the charging case, whereas the single transmitter DJI system does not. Okay, so for our first test, we are inside in a nice quiet environment. I'm going to start out talking to you using the DJI mic system, and in a moment I'm going to hand you over to the Saramonic so you can get a good comparison of the two. So once again, this is the sound on the DJI mic system, and now I'm going to hand you over to this guy. Yes, so now you are listening to me on the Saramonic Blink 500 Pro microphone. So hopefully you are getting a good comparison between the DJI and now the Saramonic microphone. And as he said, we're going to switch back and forth a couple of times to give you a good chance to get a comparison of the two. So let me pass you back over to Graham with the DJI microphone. Oh, sorry, yes. So now we are back listening to the DJI microphone. So hopefully you're getting a good comparison of the relative audio quality between the two microphone systems. I'll speak for just a few more seconds, again using the DJI microphone, and then I'll hand you back one more time to the Saramonic microphone. Yes, so once again I am talking to you on the Saramonic Blink 500 Pro system. Hopefully you're getting a good comparison between these two microphones in our quiet inside environment. So again, just to conclude our test here, I'm talking to you on the Saramonic Blink 500 Pro microphone. Okay, so now we have moved outside for the next part of our test. I'm talking to you right now on the Saramonic Blink 500 Pro system. It's relatively quiet, there's not much in the way of wind, so it's a pretty easy test, I would think, but it gives you an idea of the sound quality in an outside environment. Now we're also going to do a range test. Now, I don't know if you can see it, but in the background there, I'll zoom in for you. You can see there is a little hut way off in the distance. Now that is around about 68 meters. So in just a moment, after you've heard the comparison with the DJI microphone, I'm going to move about halfway between here and the hut, so you can hear me at around about 30-35 meters, and then we're going to go all the way to the hut, and that is around about 68 meters. I'm also going to venture into the woods to lose line of sight to the microphone, so you can see also the audio quality without line of sight. So, but first, before I head on up the hill, let's take a listen to the DJI microphone. Okay, yes, so now you are listening to me on the DJI Mic microphone. So hopefully you are getting a good comparison. The wind has picked up just a little bit. There might be some wind noise on this particular track, but otherwise it's pretty similar to when we recorded with the Saramonic system. So again, you are listening to me now outside using the DJI microphone. Okay, now I am halfway up the hill, around about 30-35 meters away from the receiver. So hopefully you should be able to hear me just fine, because this has a specified range of around about 100 meters. In just a moment, I'm going to hand over again to this guy so you can hear the comparison with the DJI microphone at this distance. So let me hand over to this guy. Yes, so now you are listening to me once again through the DJI microphone at a distance of around about 30 to 32 meters. Hopefully you are getting a good comparison between the two microphones. I will say that the wind has picked up just a little bit between the two tests, so you might hear a little bit more wind noise on this microphone than you did on the previous one. So again, here we are at 30-32 meters with the DJI mic system. Okay, here I am all the way up at the hut. Again, this is around about 67-68 meters away from the receiver. Again, we are within the specified range of this system, so you should be able to hear me without any problems. I will also venture into the woods in just a second after you've had a chance to listen to the DJI microphone. But again, we are talking to you currently on the Saramonic Blink 500 Pro system at a distance of almost 70 meters. Now let's compare that with the DJI microphone. Yes, so now you are listening to me through the DJI mic at 67-68 meters. Hopefully you are getting a good comparison between the two microphones. I guess now we are going to head off into the woods to see how each one performs without line of sight. So I guess you're going to head off that way in a second? Okay, you explain. Okay, so now we're both going to take a walk, and we're going to lose line of sight between the transmitter and the receiver, and we'll see what difference that makes. So I'm going to head off this way, he's going to head off that way, and let's see what happens. Okay, walk. Okay, so I have no idea where he got to, or if you can still hear him through his microphone. But in any event, I'm going to head off now down this direction. I'm going to lose line of sight to the receiver, and let's see how well you can hear me now. So off I go into the woods, moving away from the receiver. I'm probably now around about 75-80 meters away. And when you come around the corner, you should be able to hear me pretty well at this point. Again, this has a specified range, I believe, of 250 meters, so this should be no problem. Any sign of him? Did he come back? Oh, there you are. What happened to you? All right, Good test? All right, let's go. So that is a lot of information to digest, and what have we learned from all this? Well, let's start out with the basics. The reason you buy a wireless microphone system such as the Saramonic or the DJI is because you want better audio quality than you can get with the onboard microphones of your camera. And in that regard, I would say both systems performed equally well and did a great job of providing better audio quality than onboard microphones. They did so inside, they did so outdoors, they did so at reasonable distance, and we saw that at long distances they did a reasonable job, but I think it's fair to say that the distance claims of both manufacturers, that's 100 meters on the Saramonic and 250 meters on the DJI, I would say are a little bit optimistic. Maybe you can get it to work at those kind of distances, but as we saw, the slightest obstruction is really going to deteriorate your signal, and I would not rely on getting good audio quality at anything like those kind of distances. Now, when it comes to the other features, the versatility, the features and capabilities, the usability and the portability, it's clear to me that DJI have really done their homework and have provided a solution that really addresses the needs of most users. So for me, there's one clear winner. That being said, if you don't need that versatility, if you don't need those extra bells and whistles, and you can live with some of the other limitations, the Saramonic systems do provide an excellent audio quality solution at a significantly lower cost than the equivalent DJI systems. And also worth considering is that the single microphone DJI system does not include the charging case, which also makes that solution a little bit weaker. So there you have it, another comparison test. I hope you enjoyed this and got good information out of it. Please remember to hit that like button and consider subscribing to our channel for a lot more videos. Also hit the notification button so you can be alerted whenever new videos are posted. Thank you so much for watching.